All right, hey, everyone, how you doing? It's Chris Martinez, Zach Fritz, the Automotive Informants, where we go through this last week or this week's headlines, and we give you a real operator take on how you can actually win in today's market based on hearing all this noise or what we can actually see through this to understand how to pull through and execute in any environment. Zach, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. What about yourself?
I'm doing really good. We had some pretty good response last episode, but I was looking at some of the new latest and greatest articles today, right? And it's funny because I initially saw this one article about housing in the United States, and then I looked, and it was talking about how expensive or how much you have to actually make to buy a brand new home. And I said, okay, well, let's put the two and two together. So I did some research and found that, what's it actually take to buy how much do you have to make in every state to buy a new car? Because as you know, new car prices have hit all-time highs. I think the last estimate was 737. The new car, every one in every five people pay $1,000 or more a month on a new car. And it's just getting kind of crazy. What do you think about that?
I mean, $1,000 a month, in I guess my perspective, is what it used to cost to own a Ferrari or a Lamborghini if you didn't have the money to pay cash. So, $1,000 a month, and I see what's on the road. What out there is exciting enough to justify $1,000 a month? That's my question. Other than an exotic.
Right. Well, it's just I'll tell you, there's a lot of exciting cars for $1,000 a month, but still, it seems pretty high now. I remember some Mercedes cars back in the day. You could get some lease payments for $500, $600, and now those same lease payments are $1,000. So
It's
I
nuts.
think when you see what it actually costs across every state, for example, in the state of Hawaii, you have to make $165,000 a year just to afford a new car. In California, 157,000. Florida's 107,000. Texas, 104,000. So when you think about what it takes to actually afford a new car, it's up there. Considering the average consumer, what's the average consumer make a year?
I mean, the irony here is you're not even talking about a brand new, 70, 80, $90,000 car. You're talking like a new semi trimmed out Toyota Highlander. If you're
Yes.
actually doing it, 20, 40, 10, or whatever the math was on car payments, right? However people should split it up according to financial gurus online. That's what we're basing this off of, which is the crazy part. But I mean, average consumer, I guess minimum wage has gone up. So you're seeing a rise in kind of what the middle class is. I think the last time I looked, it was like 104,000 was kind of your dead even middle class now. And so,
Well, the average consumer, according to Google, right, is like
the Googler,
69,000 a year. That's actually, I
what's
thought, or
lower?
actually, it's according to the National Average Wage Index for Social Security Administration.
Yeah.
2024 showed $69,000, which I thought that was pretty high. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. That's
That's
way
it's
lower
actually
than I thought.
what's that?
That's way lower than I thought.
Yeah, that's the average income though. So middle class. Maybe you're probably thinking household income.
Oh, I'm thinking, yeah, here in Colorado, it's high.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah, anymore. I mean, everything is just up there, right? And the problem is all these prices, housings have gone up. I'll tell you, I remember 2005 buying my first house, and I want to say I paid like $200,000 for it. And that same house, my daughter, who's now 29, when I was 25, I bought my first house, and she's 29. There's no way she could afford the homes in that same neighborhood today because they're just next level. And I remember hearing those stories where back in the day you could buy a brand new house for 40 grand and they were at 200 grand. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, now they're 500 grand. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not even the same math anymore. Even like the income didn't catch up, nothing caught up. Everything is just through the roof. And so when you think about like car prices, you're just thinking, at what point does this all just stop, or is this going to be the new norm now? You're just you talk about the renter community. Is that the same thing that's going to happen on new cars or even used cars, that you can no longer like buy a new car anymore? Like you have to rent it. Like that's just the way it is now.
That's the scary prospect,
Or
right?
pay
Is
cash. It was what I mean.
yeah, pay cash. But that's kind of the scary thing is at what point does it not make sense, and at what point are you ever even paying a car off, leasing against depreciation, and then
Well, yeah, because now you got to go 84 months. Most consumers now are 72, 84-month loans. And like we saw last time, we discussed 120-month loans. So
it's
it's
insane.
it's getting up
Same.
there.
Well, it's the same thing with housing affordability, right? Is I've currently kind of got a short bet against it because I'm trying to go completely liquid right now and dump any, house assets that I have. Because I don't believe it that the market is going to support what prices currently are. But a lot of people
Yeah.
have mixed opinions and don't feel that way, and I kind of feel the same way about cars in a certain respect. Some models are excluded, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens because it will come to a point at which it's no longer affordable to buy a house or drive a car, and I think we're seeing this difference in renting versus owning in both categories.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to say the least. And then you got companies like Cadillac coming out with these new models. And there's one interesting model that just came out. Zach, what do you think about this new? I don't even know what I don't know if it's called a wagon or what it's called, but
So,
it's an interesting look. Let's to say the least. I really now don't get me wrong. I really like Cadillac. I love the Escalade, amazing models, right? This one though, I think it reminds me of Ford's Thunderbird when it came out. Remember that Ford Thunderbird that came out?
you're talking the second iteration that was all rounded and bubbly?
Yes, they made it look. It was like
Yeah.
a '60 Ford Thunderbird. They brought it back, and this was going to be like the talk of the town.
Those horrible at first, right? It's kind of like the Prowler was ugly at first. The SSR was terrible to
Actually,
look at.
the Prowler, I always liked that. I just thought it looked
I did
cool.
too. I did too. It was just ugly enough to be pretty. It's kind of like the face that only a mother could love, the face that only a car enthusiast could love.
Well, people say the same thing about the Cybertruck I'm driving.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, Cybertrucks are just atrocious, but we won't go there.
It's
This
funny because
Cadillac, though,
it looks like a big refrigerator. I mean, I've heard it all, but
yeah.
I still think it looks cool, man. Especially because I've got it wrapped black, so I feel like it's like the Batmobile, So
Well, yeah. I
I'm
mean,
sticking to that story. I am, sir. That's the goal.
so this Cadillac is. I think that in renderings we saw they were going for this kind of classic shooting brake body line, which is beautiful. A lot of European cars do this, but instead of a shooting brake, I think we wound up with like a shooting fake, and it is ugly as all get out. I cannot stand to look at this car. I hope it doesn't get produced, but
Well, according to what I read, it's going to be EV. It's going to be the whole thing. But first glance, maybe when I look at it in person, it looks better. But at first glance, it's not something I can see myself in. But some people might like it. I think it's a Cadillac, so I'm sure it's got some cool tech. But yeah, I'm not.
I
I'm
mean,
not sure, sir, but I don't know that
some,
someone's gonna want to take that one to the bar like that other tech. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you heard about that, and
the
it's a sad
Mercedes.
deal. And don't get me wrong, I've had people take cars from, employees take cars, and we've had to let them go and things like this. This one hits a little different. I think this is why it actually got more like headlines in the news, because this technician decided to take a car that and technicians are known for taking extended test drives, because you got to run you have to drive them. They've got to go through and put, you just sometimes you have to put miles on cars to identify and diagnose certain things. This wasn't that case. And it might have been that it's probably started out at that case, and then he decided, you know what, I'm on the way home, I'm gonna stop at a bar and just, have a couple.
Pick up a couple road sodas. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna just have a couple, toss a couple back, and let's have a good night, right? Well, the problem with that is a customer ended up getting notified, right? That the GPS told her, "Hey, your car just moved," and so she's like, "Oh my god!" So then she goes to the bar, finds the technician, and initially, I guess the store just kind of downplayed it, really just didn't take ownership, and I think that's what really triggered the news and media and all that. So it's just not a good look. And so these things happen. Don't get me wrong. It's I wouldn't say gone to a bar. Well, maybe come to think about it, maybe one time, but we had to let the people go and customers. We told them, and hey, man, we're sorry. And when you're empathetic and trying to do right by the customers, that goes a long way. And it reminds me of the book by the guy who created the Ritz Carlton. I don't know if you've read that book.
I haven't read it.
Excellence Wins is the name of the book. Great book, by the way. How he took Ritz Carlton to that whole level, like that experience, right? And he talked about that specifically. Sometimes all it takes is just having a real conversation with people and being, empathetic, and they may not even sue you, right? Or in this scenario, it sounds like there's going to be a lawsuit. That's essentially what I read anyway. But sometimes if you'd have just, talk to them, be genuine about it, trying to help and understand and give them appropriate corrective, like let them know there's going to be some consequences as a result of what happened, and someone's going to pay the price because that's not a reflection of how we do business. If they went down that path, that's probably would have never gotten the attention it did. But when they downplayed it, that's where unfortunately it happened. But this is just from third party. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm just reading whatever the headlines on this news article were. So, and I read the story, and that's essentially what they said. But what are your
It's
thoughts on it?
tough. It's tough because as a former technician, I mean, I can tell you what goes on behind the scenes. A lot of dealerships, they're good, right? We don't do extended test drives. We don't, do anything stupid. But I've also worked for very reputable, well known dealerships with multiple dealers across state lines that, yeah, you had technicians going to lunch at, or Twin Peaks or those restaurants, and, the service manager buying shots for everybody, and then people going back to work for 4 or 5 hours in the afternoon. And I mean,
So
that's,
are those places? I've never been to those places. Are they bars or what? What is that?
yeah, like the bars where, the girls are wearing short skirts and all that. Just
That's terrible.
what you would expect from an automotive service department sometimes.
Well, I think like you that was big in the 80s with sales too. I mean, like people took cars to the bars, and I mean that like you see the old movies, like that was like lunch hour. Like, hey, I'm gonna have a drink. Like that's
Liquid
not.
lunch.
I think things have changed drastically since then, for sure. Because now even looking at this new generation up and coming, they're not really going to bars and drinking as often. Like that's like a non-event now. And I'm like, it's interesting to see, because I know
Yeah.
growing up in my time, I even hate saying it that way. It really kind of feels like it dates me, but it's amazing that like that was everybody lived for that. Like, hey, we're gonna do this, and now it's like it's just not that. Which I think it's better, but I don't know. I think COVID changed a lot of things, and so it's just interesting. But
What would you have done if this was a technician at your dealership?
yeah, we had to part ways for sure. Like
Be
that,
parting ways with the technician and offering up a G wagon or something as,
it would have been. It would
hey,
have. We'd have definitely taken care of that customer. There's no doubt about. Like I would have. You know, no one likes having those conversations, but you have to get in front of them, or else things like this happen. It's unfortunate, but I think about your reputation is everything. That's another book you need to read. Is it called The 48 Laws of Power? Have you read that one? Check that book out. One of the quotes, or one of the laws is, basically protect your reputation at all costs, protect your character at all costs. Like that's like one of the things, because you only have one, right? Like you want to make sure it's good. And but if you're in politics, it's different, right? Like now it doesn't matter what kind of craziness happens, somehow one side or the other is going to like you. You know what I mean? It's just the
Yeah.
crazy.
The more polarizing, the better. That's the.
Yeah.
It has started to be less about you, who are you as a person, and it's more about how polarizing can you be towards a certain issue or topic or subject, whatever the case may be. And that sells too.
Well, it's unfortunate. Like it does, but let's make it a little lighter before we kind of wrap up here in a few. Here's another story. Here's a cool story. Well, I don't know if you like it. I like it because it's technology and things like that. Waymo. I don't know if you've heard of Waymo. So they're talking robo taxis. Uber
Mhm.
is talking robo taxis. Volkswagen, Mercedes, Chinese AV leaders like Baidu and Pony. Everybody's pushing that direction because they're seeing, the renter economy style. Imagine if you can get that cost down to, next to nothing just to get a ride share, then you'll see, especially in bigger cities, you'll see more people doing that, especially if they don't have to drive with anybody. If it's just a robot that comes, picks you up, and then leaves. And if it average time takes, 2 minutes to pick you up, then do you need a car? Is it more effective or more cost effective to pay $300 a month by having this type of deal versus going that other direction of buying a brand new car?
I thought about that actually last night. I was driving out to dinner and I had a phone call in the middle of this drive that I had to be on. And I'm driving on the phone, driving down the highway, and I'm like, it'd be so much easier if I could actually focus on what this person's talking about while not having to focus on the road. It's a little bit of autonomous driving. And then I get to where I'm going, and parking's a disaster. And I've got to find a place to park my truck, and I got to park super far out and walk into downtown. And I'm like, it would be so much easier if I had a ride share or something to drive me and I didn't have to care about it. I would definitely pay for that. And I can see the merit, especially being in a big city and having to pay for parking, which still blows my mind, right? And there's a lot of value there. Now, it's about getting that price point down, though. That's the key.
Yeah, and that's where I think, when you think about it, right? Like they're not paying for gas, they just got to charge it. If they can, instead of paying $757 a month,
Or
and
a
you can,
thousand.
and maybe you're paying 300 a month in ride shares all month, like, and you don't have to have insurance. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it starts to pencil. You know what I'm saying? So then you start saying, well, look, now it'll be different for families and things like that. But if I was, single person, I might even do that, go that direction, especially if it pencils that much. You know what I'm saying? Because you like anymore, like even now, I don't really drive as often because I have my own office at home and things like that. And it's unreal to just, when you think about it, like what I love about what I do is because I have the autonomous driving. So what you're saying, I actually have that capability because I don't have to worry about it.
As ugly
Uh,
as the Cybertruck is, man, I am a little jealous of that.
Let me tell you, it is amazing. Like you just push the coordinates and it drives you wherever you need to go. And I'm just having conversations, and it's still not to the point where I can be on my phone the whole time, but every now and then it's easier to check your phone from time to time without worrying you're going to miss an exit, like because it's just going to take the exit and do whatever it needs to do to get you where you need to go.
Exactly. I mean, you can kind of pull your attention a little more than driving on the highway. Like last night, I'm worried about the Tahoe in front of me, the Corvette that's right on my trailer hitch, and then I'm trying to get over because a semi is going to block the exit coming up in a mile, and it's just there's so much going on that it makes it hard to concentrate on anything else. Which, yes, distracted driving, but that's the way that everything's going. Everybody's mobile, everybody's on their phones, everybody's working 24/7 to afford these crazy astronomical car payments and cost of living. So It's what we got to do.
Well,
I think this is the answer.
I didn't want to leave without talking about this one last topic, and it's a lot of news in the media today about losing jobs to AI, right? Like that's a real thing. 30,000 people from I think Amazon or UPS or I don't remember who it was. There's a lot. So you're seeing a lot of that in the media today. Where I think dealers can learn is I listened to a podcast the other day. I think this was 5 days ago, and the former president of Tesla was being interviewed, and they asked him. I forget how the conversation started, but what the premise was, Elon Musk asked him one day and said, "Hey, look, how many clicks does it take to buy a Tesla?" And he said, and so they did the math, and it was 64 clicks. And then he said, okay, well, how many clicks does it take to buy Domino's pizza? And so he went online and figured it out. It was 10 clicks, 10 clicks to buy pizza. He said, let's get it down to that. And so they found out through their research that 44 of those clicks were the retail installment contract and things that, dealers have customers sign. And what they found was they had their whole legal team look at it. What they found was that most everything that the dealers are asking you to sign, it's just something that attorneys over languaged that you don't even need them. You didn't even need this stuff. And so they brought it down. And what I think about like innovation like that, and what this guy really tries to do is he asks the questions that seem super basic, but because he's not in that, like he wasn't in that industry, initially. He's looking for a fresh set of eyes, so he's asking these different questions. And so then rewind 6 7 months ago, I don't remember, maybe 8 months ago when I bought my truck, I remember signing or filling out the information online, and I signed it online. I thought a couple boxes. I don't even know how I did it. And then I get to the store, they have me sign two pages, and it was like a DMB form. Two, I think they were DMB forms. Those are the only two that you still need a wet signature. And so I signed them, and then he showed me the car and the truck, and then he said, "All right, you're good to go." And I was like, "Okay, I don't get a contract." I mean, he's like, "No, no, you already did that online." And I was like, "Oh wow!" Like I didn't understand it. I still haven't even looked to see if I even got a contract. But isn't that amazing? All of that, and now in automotive, why aren't lenders trying to simplify that for dealers and things like that? Because why? What is the words that dealers say all the time? It's because we've always done it that way.
Yeah, it is. It's that old mindset, that unwillingness to change. And look at any great company. It's the more you can reduce the friction during the buying process, the smoother everything goes. Now, the one caveat that I have with that is we are seeing people take 84, 120 month, payment terms. Is it a good idea for lenders to make it even easier? Or is that going to get more people into some kind of sticky financial situations? I
Well,
don't
I
know.
think it's the same thing. They still have criteria, but instead of having 44 signatures, you have one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, do you really need to have that many signatures? You know what I'm saying? So I think I think they're right on in doing that, because the only thing you would be focused on in the traditional environment would be selling product. And then, with all this disruption that's happening, and I read somewhere another guy online was talking about, man, if I was running a store, Chris Slayton, I think is his name. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was Chris. I'm trying to think of which posts I read. And he was like, man, I just like redo the whole thing and just start putting AI wherever I could. And I was like, and he's not that far off. Like, really, I mean, where could you put, pieces in? And this piece right here would be immediately, like, there's no reason why you could, if they could figure it out, I could figure it out too, and we can do it. Now, you've got to get things passed through the lenders, and so maybe they had the lenders they use, they've talked to them and say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and they said okay. And so as long as they've done it, then you should be able to do it. So it's not far off. I think, with how easy it is to build today, there's there's a lot of disruption that's coming. It's transportation seems like one of those things, but I think there's no industry that's like not going to be safe unless you're like a plumber, roofer, things like that. Like those ones.
Even then, for lead gen, AI for lead gen at that point.
Well, it's just going to get them better, right? Those you'll see, if anything, more consolidation in those spaces because then that's where these VC companies or those. I forget the name of those. I forget the
What?
name. It's not
Venture
VC,
capital.
not venture capital. It's gosh, it's another term.
Are you talking just aggregators that'll take everybody and lump them?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I forget. There's a term for that, and I just can't remember what it is. But I think there's definitely a lot of disruption that's gonna happen. It's
It's the
coming.
speed of doing business has changed, right?
But I think for me, the good operators are just going to lean on AI and amplify it. Like I wouldn't be like trying to figure. I mean, yes, I'm going to try to figure out ways to cut expense. Don't get me wrong, but with AI, where I'm putting it in my company, we can plug all the gaps to help amplify your current team. So it's not like I'm going to go and go cut my sales staff because AI is doing this. I'm actually like, no, I need you guys because I'm going to create more business because of it. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, I
that's
look
my thought
at
process.
I look at products, anything in business, right, is reps and volume is what it comes down to when you're trying to scale. And it's the same way. If you want to lose weight, do more reps and more volume, right? Walk more, run more, lift more weights. If you want to get better at sales, you've got to make more phone calls. You've got to work more leads. And then products like yours, rolling out these AI agents, you're now able to do that at such a more rapid pace than a human ever could, and with more consistency and actually collecting all the information that it's supposed to, that other people really don't stand a chance. I mean, when you try to put a human against it, you'll never match those results.
Yeah, and when I look at the direction where everything's going, those EV cars are starting to make a lot more sense again, right? Because what's going on in the Middle East?
I don't even know what's going on at this point. I don't think
I don't
anybody
think
knows what's
anybody
going
knows
on.
what's going on, but we do have one more story we can cover, and it's the Iran conflict, and it's the global conflict now because it's affecting oil, right? And so what's happened to oil, what's happened to gas prices, and I'm not generally one to talk about politics, but this affects automotive specifically because what happened. I remember last time gas prices spiked crazy. Everybody came to the stores and were dumping trucks. Like they're like, man, I can't afford it anymore. My truck gas used to be 200 a month. Now I'm paying 500 a month. And so people just were coming in and trading in their trucks and getting rid of them. And then Priuses were like 5 grand over sticker. You know what I'm saying? Because you couldn't sell enough of those things, right? Because people were like, man, I just can't be paying this gas so much. So is this a way to now you're going to look at your EV models and think, okay, well maybe I might want to keep one or two. You know what I'm saying? And before you may not want to be, and I think if you're a dealer, you should be trying to carry at least a couple of Teslas anyway, because I think it's a fast turning model and it just makes all the sense in the world, especially if you have some EVs.
It's interesting to me. I mean, I have my own theory with what's going on in regards to oil. I think that oil's probably going to. I think the U.S. will probably stop exporting as much. I mean, especially because the entire Middle Eastern region is unstable. So I think it's going to flip to that, and you see, what happened in Venezuela with all of their oil reserves. And I think
Yeah,
that
I
there's
haven't heard
more.
much of that part. I mean, are we still like controlling that, or I don't
Yeah,
even know
that's
what's
what I
going on
thought.
there.
Yeah, what happened to it? So are we just trying? That's my big wonder. Is oil just being destabilized from Middle Eastern producers so that we can then dominate oil, or what? I mean, there's got to be a bigger picture. But at the same time, you're right on the EVs. I filled up yesterday and I spent $80 to fill my truck up, and then I still burned through a quarter tank. So I'm like, it's not affordable to drive. Where's those $300 a month, chauffeur car services like we were talking about earlier? That would be really convenient right now. It's
Hey, I'll
nuts.
tell you, my EV right now, my Cybertruck is as goofy as it looks. I think it's pretty cool right now.
Yeah,
It's
don't rub it in. It
you
hurts a
know
little bit.
especially when it drives me wherever I need to go, man.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, okay.
that's what the minute you do that, you're gonna be like, why didn't I do this sooner? Like this is just it just make especially if you're like me, I hate driving. I don't like after 30 minutes of driving, I'm ready to fall asleep. It's like terrible. Like I don't know if it's because I got like ADHD or whatever. It's just I've just never been a fan of driving. You know what I'm saying?
30 this year, and it's starting to become that way. Where I used to love driving, and I'd be like, hell yeah, let's load up and drive across the country just because we can. It's fun. Now I get 20 minutes down the road, 3 or 4 songs on the radio, and I'm like, I'm over this. This sucks.
Isn't that funny? That's funny, man. Well, we've had a lot to talk about. So we talked about high car payments. We've talked about quite a few things. How could you tie everything that we've talked about today into like a nice little bow and be like, all right, like this is what we've seen, this is what we heard. Like for me, I think of everything that we've talked about, like prices, the lawsuit, the oil, things like that. Like it's all like making sure that you have, you know, things in play to ensure that you can one safeguard certain things and you have process and you can't be afraid of certain things, but then also educate your sales teams and service teams and things like that so that you understand like, hey, these are some of the things that can happen. But it's also for me, it's always a good reminder, refresher to have these conversations with my team today. Because yes, you have that, but without like that over communication with your team, there's no way they're going to remember any of this stuff. So, like for me, this would be a good time for me to, hey, look, guys, this is what happened at this store. What protocols do we have in place? What are we doing to mitigate things like this? And if it happens, do you know how to handle this conversation? Do you know how to talk to the customer? What is the game plan? What are we going to do? And have that in place. And then like you see gas prices going as high as they are, maybe not put all the money in the trucks right now, back them up a couple grand, be cautious, maybe look at a couple EVs that move fast like a Tesla. If you're going to buy any EV, buy the ones that are moving the fastest. And then still if you're looking at these high prices and what you people have to afford in their market, you probably need to focus on some cheaper trucks, cars under 25 grand. And when you have a car that's 18 grand, 15 grand, don't be afraid to put some money in it because it's hard to replace and they're the fastest turning cars right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you have a much larger market segment that can afford these cheaper cars. I mean, just that's how it works. But I think to your point of kind of trying to wrap all of this up, it really is about having standards in place, right? Knowing what is your strategy going forward. We're no longer in an industry where we can just throw our hands up and say, well, we don't know. I mean, let's just keep doing it the way we've always done it. That doesn't apply anymore. Now's the time to adapt. Now's the time to change and start moving forward with the times because the industry is either going to leave you in the dust or you're going to pick up the pace and keep up with it because it's not stopping.
100%, especially when it comes to AI. And when you think about all of those jobs that are being lost, if you're an operator today and you're not immersed in AI and how it can improve, change your business, someone will do it and take over your business. So, or take you out, like put you out of business. You know what I'm saying? So that would be my last piece of advice. Like make sure that you're not just, having unreal expectations. You need to have like, hey, what do I need to learn? How can I get better? And that's how you stay ahead of it in any market.
Absolutely.
All right, cool, Zach. Well, it was fun. It was good times. Until next week. You got any last parting words today? You're gonna go fill up your tank. What's that?
I hope these gas prices drop. Yeah, I've got my fingers crossed, but
Yeah,
it's
we don't. Who knows what's gonna happen on that, sir?
we never know.
But all right, cool. Well, I'll be praying for you and everybody on this, and I look
Thanks.
forward to next week. You have a great weekend, man.
You as
We'll
well.
talk soon.
Thanks.
Take care.